Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Winner's Circle. I appreciate you all for joining me here, taking us through a little bit of a catch up here. So, I'm going to be briefly touching on week one. Again, I mentioned this after the first episode that dropped. I was in Arizona all last week, so I couldn't record an episode and just felt like by the time I got home Saturday, was home celebrating Christy's birthday, needed to honestly just relax, unwind. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just watch these upcoming episodes and we will recap it. I'll kind of mush it all together. Week one was a little bit chaotic. Vince had, I thought, what was a pretty decent HOH week because none of the attention was on him. It was actually all brought to whoever was on the block, and poor Zay got the brunt of Rachel in week one. We're going to talk about that. But before we jump into it, make sure, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications. If you're listening on audio, drop a 5-star review for the Winner Circle, whether that's on Apple, whether that's on Spotify, whether that's on iHeartRadio, all your podcast platforms. Make sure you're giving a 5-star review here for your boy. I'm out here grinding. Okay. I'm out here grinding. I'm doing it all for you. And I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate the commitment that all of you have put in. I'm very excited to get into the comments segment that we're going to have at the end of this episode, which is really cool. I saw some comments. One, I want to just shout out everybody for all the amazing comments and the understanding of, my schedule and still trying to get this out there. You're all the best. I literally cannot thank you enough. And I'm speaking to YouTube comments. So if you haven't watched YouTube, go and drop the comments, because as I just mentioned, we are going to be doing a nice little comment, or I'm going to be doing a comment segment at the end of the episode, at the end of every single episode, where you get to, battle my takes, say things that you may not agree with. And, if I like what you're saying and it's not like extremely nasty and it's more about the show and a disagreement and your opinion, I love interacting with you all and getting a little different perspective. So we're going to jump into that at the end. A lot of people were commenting, about Derek. This episode is going to be coming out tomorrow. Right now, it is Friday, 6:18 p.m. where I'm recording. Obviously, you all know at this point, Derek is going to be doing every other week the Friday episodes with Taylor. So obviously, he's not going to be doing the podcast. Derek also was doing a lot of other things, and so he was kind of stepping away from the Winner Circle, which is all love. And so I know a lot of people were asking questions, so I don't want to just make those comments, be like, well, why isn't Cody answering it? Oh, is something going on? Like there's nothing. It's just sometimes there's other obligations and other things take precedent, and that's just how it is. So wanted to at least get that answer out there for everybody that's asking. I know people were asking last year and this year. So like, it's just what it is. You got your boy. I'm here and I'm grinding and I'm doing it all for you. So here we go. Jumping into week one. So we saw Vince win the HOH. Couple things that I want to touch on in week one. I really don't understand, and it's going to carry into week two, so I could touch on it here, what Kelly is doing. I don't love that she keeps offering herself up as a pawn. I guess I can touch on it. I'm going to touch on it a little bit later, but Kelly's offering herself as a pawn, then like backtracks, and it's just like, you don't want to put yourself in positions to win early on and show that you can win, because it all of a sudden starts to have people chirp about you winning competitions and maybe you being a threat, and then you don't get the opportunity to go on the block and then win and pull yourself off. Like, it's really tough. You want to get comfortable winning. And we saw that with Tucker last year, where Tucker was offering himself up on the block and really got comfortable winning competitions, but it could only last so long, right? We saw it burn out. And all of a sudden, when Tucker needed to win that one time, he didn't, and it ended up being his downfall. So like, you don't want to put yourself there, and you don't want to show people that you can be a competitive threat. So I don't really love that Kelly's doing it. I thought Vince had a great HOH. Zay being on the block, and then the drama going on with Zay and it becoming this battle between Zay and Rachel saying to Zay, like, hold on, I have the quote written down. I wrote my notes for this are just, it's a little lengthy because of, catching up and all the episodes that I had to catch up on. But Rachel, the conversation I thought was literally hilarious. He goes to Rachel, I've been telling everyone that I'm going for the HOH, and if I win, the people that didn't vote for me could be nominated. And Rachel's just like, did you say you're gunning for me? And he was like, well, I mean, you're like in the list of people that could go on the block. And she's like, you better watch yourself coming for the queen. You'll get beheaded. I was like, oh my God, this is just so classic Rachel. Like this is so classic Rachel, and I cannot wait to touch on the conversation between her and Keanu when I jump into week two. But man, oh man, this was just like so classic Rachel. But it's happening so early, and it's like I haven't seen this since Rachel on season 12 and 13, which obviously has been a long time. But it's hilarious to watch her reference herself as the queen. Like I can't be the only one with like secondhand embarrassment, and this is all love. But it's just like Rachel, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? There was there was a moment between Jimmy and Rachel that I thought was absolutely hilarious. Jimmy cracks me up. I'm going to get into his HOH. I don't think he ran his HOH great. I think he had a really bad HOH. But back to Vince, I want to give Vince the credit that he deserves. He had an HOH where everything kind of blew up, and Zay almost became like this split. It was like it showed where the house lied. So it pretty much showed a split of like the guys and Kelly, which kind of got a little blurred after the vote, and the girls sticking together. And there's Vince just up top in the HOH, not being a part of this, not having to show his hand, not having to show his cards. And I think that's really helped him with the HOH, winning that in the first week. I have the data. I'm not shouting the person out yet because I don't have their YouTube name in front of me, but somebody put the data together for all of us to show statistically how beneficial it could be to win that first HOH. And I'm telling you right now, I think Vince is really in a good position due to how that HOH went. He put people on the block. He had to nominate 3 people. It's a really difficult thing to do in that first week, but I think he got minimal blood on his hands. Zay goes home, which is somebody that was on the block. So that's somebody that could have come after him. And the drama kind of was created where it became almost like this guys plus Kelly versus the girls plus Jimmy. And it was really good for Vince, in my opinion. So A to Vince in his first HOH week. I thought it was really, I don't know whether he intentionally did it or not, but it's just, he just let the house kind of like talk. He talked to the house, took their opinions, and was able to kind of go along with it. And just really, I don't feel like he got a lot of blood on his hands. I thought Vince put himself in a really good position moving forward. What else? What else do I got from week one? Let's go back to my notes. Let's go back to my notes because this is why I didn't want to fall off the rails like I was doing last week, where I just was all over the place. Vince tells Keanu about Jimmy, and it causes a tailspin. Yeah, that was a mess in week one, and it turned into kind of like the Jimmy show. Jimmy had his blow up during the veto, which I thought was just like, I don't know. It seemed too theatrical to me. Like when Jimmy did it, it was very theatrical. Like Jimmy is very smart. He's very quick witted. So like he's not the person that you want to get into a back and forth with. He's going to come up with something ultimately that's smarter and wittier than whatever you're going to say, most likely. And so um when that whole thing was going on between him and Keanu, I was just like, I don't know. I had like an eye roll moment. I was like, okay, this is a little too theatrical for me, for Jimmy. And when it comes across that way, I was like, didn't love it. 5-9 vote I thought was really cool. I had some comments mentioning this is what like the good part of the Battle of the Block was. I called the Battle of the Block, which was season 16, the blockbuster. Oh my goodness. From the blockbuster, which then we ultimately saw like it go the other way this week. So I still don't know how I feel about the blockbuster. Riley's playing to the side of the house working with Rachel, which is good for now since they seem to have the numbers. I wrote that down after I saw Riley voted on the side of Rachel in the group that she was working with, and ultimately then shared that with Rachel. And I thought that was a good play on Riley's part because I thought it's like, he can maybe go under the radar in between. I don't know how much it's going to work out because even in this week, it started to like flip flop a little bit on him, which tends to happen. Like if you're going to be working with the guys and then you want to not vote their way, but you want to talk like you're with them, and then you go to the girls, like they may not figure it out in that moment where the vote was, but they can ultimately figure it out. Like Will was extremely adamant that he didn't do it. Keanu knows where he voted, and we knew that. What's his name? Let's pull it up here. I got my names and my faces here. We knew that Adrian voted to keep Zay, and we knew that Zach voted to keep Zay, and it's like everybody knows that Kelly is sitting on that side. So it was like it was only going to be a matter of time, and I'm pretty sure I haven't watched the live feeds, but I can imagine that they kind of sorted it out, which probably isn't great for Riley. Um, I thought there was a really good thing I wanted to note about Adrian in the episode where he shares something with Will about what Keanu was doing, where he was like, I don't believe that he voted our way. And Will, obviously, what happens in Big Brother, like you can't help yourself. You want to confront somebody that you feel like is lying on you, which Keanu was. And I liked seeing Adrian chase after him and calm him down and say like this isn't the time, because what that is telling me is that Adrian is so locked in about not wanting things to come up where he can be the center of the attention, and it could ultimately come Keanu could be like, well, who told you that? And he'd be like, Adrian. And now Adrian has an enemy in Keanu. I think Will was, if I was Adrian, I would be like, okay, now I really I can't share anything with Will, because if it's something that is like negative, like possibly, hey, Will, I heard somebody's going to put you on the block, you run the risk of him running and telling that person, and that can ultimately affect you. Um, Okay, so we are now moving into week 2. We have the HOH competition. I'll tell you what, one thing I didn't love about the HOH competition that Jimmy won ultimately was I like that Jimmy got the HOH. That was great. I didn't love that they allowed him to sit there. I mean, granted, great play by Jimmy. Like I thought that was brilliant, being like, okay, I know there's other powers and I want to know who has them. I wish that the producers wouldn't have let him do that, right? So I don't know. There was just something about it where I was like, this kind of seems like it shouldn't be allowed. Like when you win, you should be like, okay, now you're off to the side. And if you want to listen, like by all means, have them close. And if the person that is going up there makes themselves known, okay, that's fine, because they did that to themselves. Much like how Zach heard that Mickey was kind of close by. I don't think he ever realized that it was actually Mickey that won the power, but he's going to be the only one that had any inkling that it was Mickey, because they literally spoke. He knew it was Mickey, heard her voice, and then the power got won. So I wonder if Zach, and those of you that are watching on the feeds, let me know if Zach ends up actually talking about that more. I know he talked about it on the live show, but I'm curious to know like if he really like doubled down on it and started to talk to the house about it. But that was like almost organic and it happened naturally. Whereas Jimmy just sitting there waiting and like feeling it out and knowing that it was like a power like for the veto. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. And I thought that production should have been like, no, you can't. Much like how, when this brings me back to season 16, we were in a competition later in the season on the Battle of the Block. Caleb and I were on a team, Christine and Donnie were on a team, and Caleb like ripped something out of Christine's hand, and like they made her like give it back, or made him give it back to her. And then Donnie was like, wait, are they like handing pieces off or whatever? But like they intervened there. So I'm like, why aren't they like, I felt like production shouldn't have allowed that. That's my opinion. Let me know if you feel differently about it. I will say I'm not taking that away from Jimmy, but I thought it was a great play by Jimmy. Very smart. But I just was like, he already was out of the competition. Like if you want to sacrifice yourself and not get any of the powers and like find out who wins the powers, yeah, by all means. But it's like he took himself out of the competition, which power to him. I mean, other people could have tried to do it, but I just was like, I don't know. I didn't love it. And Mickey didn't think to do it. So I was like, kind of like, all right, well, if Mickey did it, then I probably would have kept my mouth shut. But I don't know. That's how I feel. That's how we're doing. Um, Okay, where are we? Okay, I brought this up earlier. Jimmy and Rachel's interaction just had me like cracking up. Again, it just proves to the point of like Jimmy is just like very quick-witted. He's very smart and he's very funny. And when he's having that conversation talking about like Rachel's outfits, like I thought it was hilarious. And I loved how she was having fun with it too. That's what made it fun for me. I liked watching that because like I was literally waiting for cut to Rachel's diary room and Rachel being like pissed at Jimmy for saying the stuff that he said to her. So like it was nice to see her then cut to, or them cut to the diary room and see Rachel like having fun with it. So I love seeing that side of Rachel. I love seeing Rachel like be fun and playful. I think Rachel can do so much better if she just literally like her ego has to get checked. Like Rachel has to like check her ego. And I'm going to bring up how I feel about that with the conversation with Keanu. So ultimately, Jimmy wins the HOH. Jimmy's right when Jimmy won the HOH, I had mentioned, I literally had said to Christy, I was like, he's going to be a power hungry HRH. He's going to have like a power trip and it's not going to go well for him. I just felt that. I felt it based off of the conversations that he was, the interactions that he had with Keanu, how he was talking, like how very theatrical he is. I was like, I don't think this is going to be great for him. And you immediately saw stuff start to turn. You know, nominations were one thing, but it really started to turn after the veto, where he has this final three with Mickey and with Morgan. And when you have that kind of alliance where we're going to the final three, you want to be communicating, you want to talk to them. Yeah, granted, I think it's important to make sure that you're doing what's best for you. You should always be doing what's best for you, but have the conversation with them, give them your side of it and be like, listen, I understand if you want me to do this, but I don't know that that's great for me. I have a relationship with this person. Like maybe that could be something that we get somebody else to do, or maybe that's something that you can do because you don't have that relationship, but it can really affect my game. And that could come up to help us if maybe you're on the block or maybe that person wins HOH. Like you want to have the conversations with your team, or quote unquote team, your alliance. And I didn't see Jimmy really doing that with Morgan. And we saw obviously that Morgan and Mickey didn't like that. We saw the crack in that final three with Mickey sharing her power to Morgan and not sharing it to Jimmy. So I think that shows a lot. I really like Morgan. I like how Morgan's playing the game. Like, let me just go through it right now, how I feel, who I feel strongly about as players. I think Lauren's doing good. Of Catherine and Lauren, I want to say I feel like Lauren could be in a little bit of a better spot. Um, because she's just kind of playing the middle. I really like how Mickey's playing. I like how Morgan's playing. Excuse me. I like Adrian. I think he can do well, but I think he's expendable. Riley's just kind of there. Keanu's going to go home sooner or later. Jimmy's going to go home sooner or later. But Jimmy's really good at competitions. Like Jimmy would have won the veto. Which shout out to like Casey. So let's talk about that. Casey comes in for the veto, and I got to tell you, she still got it. She still got it. And I thought it was actually even more impressive how dominant Jimmy and Keanu were in that competition before they fall started. So it was so interesting because both of them looked like they barely moved. So it's like it probably was like a micro movement that caused them to have that issue. But before that, in the first two rounds, Keanu and Jimmy were literally neck and neck for every single race, and were substantially ahead of everybody else. Like I was even surprised how much further ahead of Casey they were in the two rounds that they competed. And so I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like Keanu could win this or Jimmy could win this. And then they fall started. And I was like, all right, Casey's the dominant force. There's not a chance she loses. But I thought it was fire. Like it just like adds to the legacy of Casey. It's like, I don't think anybody realizes, and maybe it's a little different for Casey because Casey has played the challenge. So she's still kind of like in game mode, but it's like to literally just get thrown back in. But you know what? I almost take that back because like the challenge is not Big Brother. And like going in for these veto competitions, like your nerves are at an all-time high. It's absolutely insane. And to have Casey come back into that veto competition and win, I thought was just beastly. It just adds to like that legacy of Casey was a comp beast. Casey comes back, wins the veto comp. It's like just dominant force. And not to mention that Casey's just the shit. She's just awesome. So I was fired up about it. Like, let's go. Fired up. So Keanu ultimately comes down. Kelly competes in her own veto power. She pulls herself off the block, and we see Amy and Will go on the block. I mean, for Jimmy, I understand what Morgan and Mickey are talking about. And maybe, some of you that were watching the live feeds can reference like who they were referring to when Morgan was mentioning like a bigger move. But I was who is she referencing? Like, is it maybe one of the more competitive guys? Like, it can't be Zach because Morgan seems to have a really good relationship with Zach. So like, I'm just interested to know who the bigger threats were that they wanted on the block over Amy and Will. And it came down to a really, it was really interesting. Um, before I get into kind of how the vote breakdown and vote went down and how I feel like this impacts Rachel, I want to talk about the confrontation between Keanu and Rachel. So Keanu and Rachel have a confrontation. They're sitting outside, and Rachel is asking him about past seasons of Big Brother. And just watching that conversation, I know all of you on here are avid fans of the show, and we could all say it at the same time. Like, all that was telling me from Keanu was that he doesn't watch the show. Like, he was talking about YouTube clips. Like, I don't even like. It almost felt like he YouTubed Big Brother blowups, which kind of makes sense as to like why he's in these blowups already. And those were ones like the Reagan and Rachel blowup is one of the most iconic blowups in Big Brother history. Like one of the most iconic blowups because Brendan gets involved. He comes out, calls them Neanderthals, or told them that's how it was pronounced. And it's literally one of the most electric, one of the more electric like fights. And also season 12, like if you're gonna talk about season 12, talk about the brigade. Like, what? He brings up the what Hayden said to Rachel about her using like all the time. I was like, buddy, this guy clearly has only watched like YouTube clips. That's what it said to me, at least. I could be wrong. Listen, and if I am wrong, I apologize, Keanu. But that's what it said to me. And in that moment, Rachel took it as he's coming for me. You want to go to war and you want to have confrontation. And I was like, it's just Rachel can't help herself sometimes. And I think it's going to be her downfall. And we're already starting to see that. Like, a lot of people were chirping about Rachel and her power and what she can do. Like, and I think it would have been really, really important for Rachel to lay low. Like, lay low, Rachel. You actually came in and people loved her. People were like, oh my God, it's Rachel. She's an icon. Yes, you're a threat. You want to lay low. You don't want to remind people that you are literally a dominant force. And if they piss you off, it's just crazy. Somehow Rachel, like when she gets pissed or upset, like you may think she's upset and like emotional, and then she like literally cut to the veto and she'll dominate you. Like, you don't want people to know that. You want people to think like, oh my God, it's Rachel. If I was Rachel, I would have went in and been like, listen, this is an insane experience. I'm so grateful to be back. Like, I would have downplayed myself. I would have been like, I am 10 years out. It's been 10 years since I played this game. I'm like, I feel like as much of a rookie as you. Like, try to relate to them. Instead, she is literally reminding everybody that she's the queen. And like, I'm not disagreeing with her statements of saying like she's the queen and better watch out. But it's like, I don't know that this is good for her. And then it's like you started seeing how the vote went this week and how people were talking. And it's like, it almost seemed like Rachel had like a pretty good hold on maybe like votes. And this week we saw that like people just don't like, they view her as a threat and they want her to be weak. And I think it's going to help right now that Amy went home and allow her to just kind of be like, okay, she lost her person and now she's got to like, she's kind of like solo, which I think is good for her. And I think she can navigate, if she can navigate it properly and just kind of like come back in under the radar. But it's like all these things like she did last week where she was like, she put on the black outfit and was like, I'm having the funeral for my friend. I was just like, Rachel, you're doing too much. Like, do a little bit less. Because like I really want to see Rachel go far, and I think she can do well. But it's just so clear that Rachel has like when I watch Rachel's diary rooms, I'm like, man, that's what I talk about on the winner circle. You could tell she's just a vet, and then she lets her emotions get the best of her. I want her to stop doing that, and that's just me like. As somebody where it's like, I want to see Rachel do good because like her going into the house and playing against a bunch of rookies, like she should go home, right? Like she should go home early. Like if they're smart, they'd be like, dude, Rachel is a force. She's a comp beast. She's won the game. Like, why would you keep her in the house? And so it just is like really awesome to see her like do well. And I think she could do even better. But I want her to stop like picking fights with people. Like she picked a fight with Zay. That all like happened. She's picking a fight with Keanu, but like Keanu's picking a fight with everybody else. So I think she's okay in that because like Jimmy realistically still is going to try to pick a fight with him. And Keanu's an easy target. So it's like the problem is like when all these blowups are done and like Keanu ultimately ends up going home whenever that is, like if he doesn't win competitions, like I don't want Rachel to be the biggest target. And right now, like looking at the entire house and be like, well, guys, like Rachel's a beast. So it's like, it's good that she's not really competing and winning a lot of competitions, but like she can turn it on at any moment. And I just want her to like dial it down a little bit. Um, Another person I wanted to touch on was Kelly. I don't love that Kelly keeps offering herself up for the block. Like, I don't love it. And she's like, oh, I'm just going to like win this competition and pull myself off. It's like last week she won the veto. This week she won the veto power competition that she had, which she absolutely smoked. Did it in a minute and a half. And I'm pretty sure she could have did it quicker if she would have just relaxed. Like, she had the last piece, the puzzle was put together and she had the last piece in her hand and like got a little flustered almost. So she could have done it in like a minute and 15 seconds. She smoked it. But ultimately, what you're showing to everybody is like, oh, yeah, I can win competitions. So what that ultimately does is that allows people to be like, okay, we don't want to put you on the block because you could win the veto, but like we'll maybe backdoor you. Because like right now, people are talking about Kelly as a target on the side of the house with like Ashley, Ava, Rachel, Morgan, Jimmy. Like they're talking about Kelly as a target. And it's like you're like just showing them, okay, if I'm going to target you, maybe I backdoor you. And it's just never a situation you want to be in. So those were my thoughts. Let's see if I have anything else here for the week. Casey is a beast, but what else is new? I love that. That's a note that I wrote down. um, I really like how Lauren was. We got to get a little bit of insight into Lauren kind of playing the middle of the playing in the middle right now of the house, and she's in a good position. I don't know how long that can last. Foreshadowing. So we'll see. But honestly, what I will say is, knowing a little bit that I know from reading up on the feeds, this next week could be a good week to win HOH. And if you've watched past episodes of the Winner Circle, you will know why. I'm going to pause, see if anybody leaves it in the comments. And now I'm going to say it because it feels like there can be like a house target. Right now, there feels like there's a house target. And you know what I'm talking about? It's Keanu. And so when there's like a target that ultimately is easy to put up and maybe send home, that's when you would want to win. The only issue I have with that is like the blockbuster makes you nominate 3 people. So it's just really tough. Being HOH and having to nominate 3 people is really, really tough. Like really tough. So I don't know that I love it. But I mean, listen, on season 16, we had to nominate 4 people. Okay. So that's my thoughts on the first 2 weeks. Did a quick little synopsis on week 1. Wasn't that quick. I mean, I think it was like 8 minutes. Did a nice little synopsis on week 2, how I feel. Who do I feel right now is in the best position to win the game? I'm going to go with Morgan. I think Morgan is in a great position. We saw her having a conversation with Zach. She has the final 3. She has that whole girl side. Maybe if there's stuff that I'm missing on the feeds, but based on the live show, I really like Morgan's position. I think Morgan's going to do really well. If I had to pick an early winner, Morgan, but shout. Anyway, so let's get to our comment segment of the episode. Okay, got my comments ready to go. The first one I want to get into is shout out to Tiffany Socks on YouTube for jumping in, doing the math, right? So I'm just going to read the comment because this one's a little bit lengthy and it gives the math breakdown of winning the first HOH. Tiffany Socks, shout out. I really appreciate you for doing this. I asked and you delivered, so I appreciate it. Did a little math, hope it is right, to see the percent of first HOHs to make top 8, like I asked to do. You're a beast. I appreciate it. I calculated 29 first HOHs. I kept only to ones who stayed HOH. Frankie, for an example, is not included for BB16, but there were seasons with more than one first HOH and their placements. Of those 29, 18 placed in the top 8. So that's roughly 62% made it to jury. If you're making it to jury, you've done a pretty good job. Okay? 6 of the first HOHs won the game. 10 made top 3. Not too bad of statistics. Actually, Rachel made top 8 or better both of her seasons as a first HOH. So she made it to jury season 1 and she won season 2. Her first season, won her second season as the first HOH. So ultimately, goes to the point that I was making, that I don't know why people are scared to win the first HOH, and they make it seem as though it's this like death sentence and like, oh, I'm going to show people that I'm a competitive threat. But realistically, it just allows you to play that first week calm because you're in power if you don't let the power go to your head. Like, I'm not saying win the first HOH to become a Frenchie. I'm saying win the first HOH to be like, how can I solidify myself for the long term? And it's like, how can I make people feel comfortable? How can I make people feel like I'm not volatile? How can I make people feel like they can trust me and that I'm not going to be this crazy HOH and I'm going to include different people? Like, you build trust that way. And the best time to do it is in the first week because, man, people are on edge in this first week of Big Brother. People are on edge. It's a really crazy mind twist to get thrown into this like high school scenario that I've talked about this multiple times, where you're like, I don't know what to do. I haven't had to deal with this in a long time, because you have your friends that you've been with for a long, like you've had for a long time. You've had significant, like whatever it is. And then you go into the situation where you're like, I wonder if they like me. Oh my God, do they trust me? All right. Are they talking about me behind my back? And it's like in the first week, it's a mess. So winning that first HOH allows you to be like, I can calm down. I can have conversations at my own pace and go and speak to people, versus like when you're not the HOH, you got to feel like you got to run up to, am I protected by the HOH? Did I talk to them before they won it? So Tiffany Sox, thank you so much for that statistic. It makes me feel pretty confident, and that I would say, hey, if you're a future Big Brother contestant and you're watching this, go for the first HOH. Next comment by Natalie Jean. Not even 7 minutes in, and I'm dying, Cody. The no sleep crash out is real. Haha, get some sleep. Happy that you'll be back this season. I feel the same way about the live feeds. I've tried to get into them, and I tune in every now and then. But sensory overload, yes, too much to handle all the time. I grabbed that one because it just kind of was like, listen, I'm here. I'm watching the live show. I want everybody to input on the feeds because it gives me a little bit of perspective, and it'll let me know, like, okay, what am I missing? Do I need to calculate it? And you can already hear it. Like I mentioned in this episode, like if I'm missing something, I'm happy to hear it. Let me know. Next comment, Tosh Martin 2362. The blockbuster is gold. It causes a lot of last minute strategy and game talk. It also causes a lot of stress and doubt on the spot of live TV. It was really fun to watch. So this kind of was based on like me saying that I don't love the blockbuster. I get that. I don't know how much it causes. Like, even watching this past Thursday's episode, I just watched it today. And I was like, they win the blockbuster. All the conversations are happening previously. Like, all the conversations are happening. Everybody is weighing out what they're going to do in what scenario. Okay, if this person wins, we're voting this way. If this person wins, we're voting this way. They've, like, last year was a little bit more chaotic, but this year they seem to have, a little more of a hold on it. I think last week's vote ended up the way that it was, not necessarily because of the blockbuster, but because of like where the lines in the sand were. Like, the guys were like, we're voting, and maybe there were people that they were having conversations with that maybe weren't telling them. And I think it just kind of showed where the loyalty was for Zay. And it was more about that and less about like chaos, because the blockbuster like caused this chaos. Question for Cody. When you get back during the sewer comp, Ashley bumped into Kelly in the dark. If Ashley would have pulled the veto power from Kelly's arms in the dark, would that have been legal? It looked like Ashley had her hands on it, and Kelly yelled no. That brings me to what I mentioned earlier about when we had a battle of the block, and Caleb, like it made it seem like, if you go back and watch season 16 in that competition, we're like in the blacked out room and we had to find bones, and Caleb literally runs into Christine and rips the bone out of her hand, and production literally made him give it back, or made him drop it. So that's what makes me feel like it would be not allowed. Like if that ended up happening and Ashley ended up pulling it out of Kelly's hands, I think production would have gotten involved and be like, no, you have to give that back to her. Last one I have here is from Natalie Jean. I can't remember if I just read the person's name that asked that question. So the question that I was just asking that was asked about the comp was asked by Shari Wentz, 5015. Shari Wentz, 5015. Shout out to Shari Wentz, 5015. And the last question is from Tosh Martin, 2362. Nope, that was the one I already read. Okay, last one is from Haley and Sheehan. Haley Sheehan. This is bringing me back to like when I used to do like the Twitch, when I used to do like the live streams on Twitch, and I would try to read people's names, like, and I would have such a hard time with it. Haley Sheehan, do you think the 3 nominations of Amy, Zay, and Ashley were the best choices at that moment? And who would I have picked if I were Vince this week? It's hard for me to know. It's like I don't have enough information to go based off of to say like who I would have picked. The reason why I will say that I think it was the right pick is because how the week played out. I think that Amy was going to be the pawn of the season. I think Amy was a good nomination. I thought Zay was an interesting nomination because then they ended up in a alliance together. But I thought, that was more beneficial to Zay. It's like really difficult, right? Like they came into the house, and I don't know if they do it the same as how we used to do it, but on season 16, but on All Stars, it was like you come into the house, the first day is the HOH, the second day is the nominations. So you don't have a lot to go based off of, and Vince did the best that he could, and I think it played out perfectly. So what I will say to that is, yes, I would have done exactly what Vince did. That wraps up the comment section of the podcast. Listen, for everybody that made it to this point, I really appreciate you. You're at the end. If you haven't done so already, like, comment, subscribe. And for all of you that have made it to the comment, leave a little box. Is that an emoji? What's the box comment? Is that one that it's got the most wild text from my boy Gold? Let's see, chat. Yeah, leave the 3 bubble. If you type in chat to your emoji search, it'll be in there. And that lets me know that you made it all the way to the comments segment of the podcast, which I really appreciate. And I love you guys. I'm going to be going through all those comments. I don't want to be liking you, and I'll shout you out. And nobody knows that because you've made it to the end at this point. So you only know that you're getting shouted out. So I'm going to shout you out. All of them. I'm just going to read through. It's going to be like a fire drill. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to go through all of them. Hopefully I don't miss any. Hopefully there's not too many, because then I'll just like add. Actually, I'm not going to read all of them. I take that back. I immediately regret saying that. But I appreciate you guys. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I'm going to leave it. It's going to be like you're going to have to come back to the episode to find out if I do or don't. It's a mystery. It's like the Big Brother theme. It's just a mystery. Just a mystery. Anyways, as always, I appreciate you all for joining me here on the Winner's Circle. If you're enjoying this, I'm going to be dropping this. This is going to be Saturday morning. You're listening to this. So enjoy a cup of Joe on your boy. Let me know what flavors of coffee you're drinking when you're listening, if you're listening in the morning. I appreciate you joining me here on the Winner's Circle, and I will see you next time.